Today we're going to talk about how to import a track into your project, a backend track, and then record your audio over it. So this is great if you want to do like a karaoke cover of a song, or if you're a rapper and you got a beat that you want to rap over and it's just a stereo file, like a WAV file, an MP3 file, something like that. This tutorial is going to get into all of that today. So we're here in Logic, and right now nothing's open in Logic, and you want to do Command N to create a new project.
Now in, choose a project, window, table, new project, document image, selected.
Once you get that new project up, by default, it should be on a blank project. But if it's not, I'll show you how you can select that, because that's usually what we want for situations like these. So if you just do VO Home to get to the top of this window,
Table, new project, document image, selected.
there's a table here that says New Project. Now, if you interact with this table,
A table, new project, document image,
you'll see there are different options in here.
recent, plug image, starter grids, tutorials, iTunes new image, demo projects, copy image,
So if you have any of these other ones selected, you just want to up arrow to where it says New Project.
tutorial, starter, recent, new project, document image,
Once you have New Project selected, press VOJ.
in, empty project, image, button, collection, one item selected,
That will jump you over to the section where you can select empty projects. It's VO space on
empty
that.
project, image, button,
Once you do that, stop interacting,
out of collection, one item selected, empty project, image, button,
and you can VO right.
expanded, disclose details, create an empty project, use musical grid, check 120, tempo, slider,
If you know the tempo of the file you're importing, like let's say this is a beat you're going to rap over and it has the tempo information in the file name, you can go ahead and set the project to that tempo. But in the case of like maybe a karaoke track, you don't know the actual tempo, don't worry about this. You can just leave this at 120.
tap tempo, button,
If we VO right,
C, major, selected, radio button,
if you don't know the key of the song, you don't need to worry about selecting it here.
minor, radio 4/4, time signature, 2MC 200 2HD 192K, audio input, pop-up button,
So the important part here is where you can select your audio interface. So whatever audio interface you're using, whether it's a USB microphone or if you have some kind of USB audio interface or something like that that you have connected to your computer, you want to make sure that's selected for the input
2MC 200 2HD 192K, audio output, pop-up button,
and the output. So you can VO space on this and make sure you have your audio interface selected for both of those. And you also want to make sure that you have headphones plugged into your audio interface, because when you're recording vocals, you're going to want to use headphones because you don't want the mic to pick up the bleed of your speakers when it's playing back whatever the beat or backing track is.
96, sample rate, pop-up button,
By default, this is going to be set to 44.1. You can leave it on 44.1. I just tend to work at 96 kilohertz. There's no reason to do that, especially when you're just getting started, just because of some of the stuff I do as far as like recording guitars and using amp sims and stuff like that. I tend to like to work at 96K. There's no issues leaving this at 44.1, especially if you're just getting started. We want to go over and hit VO space on create.
killer 25 FPS, off, 5 point, open an existing, cancel, choose, default, button,
I'm sorry, it's called choose, not create. So we're going to VO space on this.
Logic Pro is not responding. The new track, dialog, 1, content selected, number of tracks to create,
And now you have the new track dialog here, and it wants to know how many tracks to create and what kind of tracks. And it really doesn't matter what is selected here, because we'll create an audio track later. But if you want, you can jump to the top of this
choose a track type,
and VO right,
software instrument, selected, audio, radio button,
and you can VO space on
1,
audio,
content selected, number of tracks to create,
and it will add an audio track to the project for us. And one audio track's fine. We're going to jump to the bottom and hit choose, so VO, FN, and the right arrow if you're on a laptop, or just VO end if you have a full-size keyboard.
create, default, button,
So VO space to create.
dialog, inspector, group,
All right, so here we are in the project that we just created, and if I interact and go over to a track header,
and tracks time ruler, tracks header, group, and tracks head, track 1 audio 1, group,
you see we have just that single audio track that we created when we set up the project. The easiest way to get a audio file imported into Logic, in my opinion, is to just copy and paste it from Finder. You do have the option of pressing Command-Shift-I and navigating to it that way, but I like to just copy and paste from Finder. So if you know where your audio file is, you can Command-Tab to Finder, copy the file, Command-Tab back to Logic, and Command-V to paste it. Let's go over to Finder.
log finder, cover, window, AGF recreated, MP3 audio,
That is a folder with my file in it, so I'm going to
copy
copy
AGF
that,
recreated, MP3,
Command-Tab back to Logic.
Logic Pro,
I'm going to hit return to make sure I'm at the start of the project,
1R1B1 division 1 tick,
and then Command-V to paste. And now we should have a second track in this project. So if I VO right,
track 2 AGF recreated _1, group,
and that's our second track. And if I VO left,
track 1 audio 1, group,
you see the audio 1 track that we started on. So this audio 1 track is where we're going to record our vocals. And by default, if you're using a USB microphone, then it should be fine. You shouldn't really have to do anything. If you're using an audio interface, it should also be fine. You shouldn't have to do anything because by default, this audio track is going to be set to input 1. Now, let's say you happen to have your microphone plugged into input 2, then I'll show you quickly how you can change your input before you start recording. So if we press Command 2 to open a mixer.
Now in, Untitled 1, Logics, Untitled 1, Mixer, Tracks, Window, Audio 1, Partially Hidden, Channel Strip Group.
We got the Audio 1 channel strip in the mixer in focus here, so I'm going to interact with that.
And Audio 1, Partially Hidden, Channel Strip Group. 21 items, Audio 1.
And if I VO home to jump to the top of this channel strip, that's VO FN left arrow if you're on a laptop.
1. Input gain, slider.
And now I'm going to press VO right to navigate over to the input pop-up button.
0. Input gain knob. Setting. Button. Gain reduction meter. Off. Egg. But channel mode. Mono. Input 1. Button.
There we go. Input 1. So now if you don't see input 1 after you see that channel mode button, then just press Command Control F to full screen the window. And then you should see where it says input 1. Now, if you VO space on this,
menu, 4 check mark, input 1.
You'll see input 1.
No input, hyphen, input, submenu.
And then go down to where it says input. And in this submenu for VO right,
input, submenu, 2 items check mark, input 1, input 2.
And VO down arrow, you'll see where you can select input 2. And if you keep down arrow, and if you have more than 2 inputs on your interface, you'll see those show up there. This one only has 2 inputs, so it's just going to say 1 or 2. I want to leave it on input 1.
Check mark, input 1.
So you can just hit escape or VO space on input 1.
Audio 1, partially hit.
And it will select input 1. Now, the next thing I want to look at is input monitoring. Now, most interfaces, whether it's a USB microphone or an actual USB interface or something of that sort, will have something called direct monitoring. And that basically means when you plug in a microphone and you plug in some headphones, you're going to hear whatever it is that you say into the microphone back into the headphones. And that's a way that you can hear yourself while you're recording. I like to use what's called input monitoring. And to use input monitoring in the DAW, you want to turn off direct monitoring on your interface. So if your interface just has a button that says direct monitoring, you want to press that button until you don't hear yourself through the microphone anymore. And if it has a direct monitoring mix knob of some kind, then you want to turn that mix knob all the way clockwise, and you shouldn't hear yourself when you talk into the microphone anymore. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to interact with this channel strip in the mixer again. So the audio 1 channel strip for the track we want to record our vocals on.
And audio 1, partially hidden, channel strip group. 21 items, audio 1.
And if I VO left,
solo, off, switch, mute, off, monitoring, off, switch.
We have this monitoring off switch. Now you can do this with Control I in the track headers to turn input monitoring on and off, but the reason I'm doing it here is because of the next thing that I want to show you. So if I press Control I for input monitoring,
on.
It now means you should be able to hear yourself through your headphones again when you talk into the microphone, kind of like you could before you turned off the direct monitoring function on your interface. The reason I like to do this, though, is if I VO left.
Record, off, 0.0 decibels, volume fader, off, minus 29.1, peak, minus 29.1, button.
You have this peak meter here, and that's going to let you know how loud you are. Now, you want to keep this under 0 to make sure you're not clipping. So I'm going to VO space on this to clear it, and then if you sing into the microphone after you clear it, you'll see the level that you're hitting. Now, you want to probably sing the loudest part of the song the way you would sing it when you're singing that part to make sure that you have more than enough headroom so that you don't clip. So I'm going to VO space on this to clear this.
Off, minus 40.4.
All right. Go ahead and sing something for me.
I told you the deal.
All right. And if I check this.
0 off, minus 4.0. Peak, minus 4.0, button.
All right, you see that said minus 4.0, right? Normally, I would say you probably want to turn your input gain down a little bit on your interface. That's the knob that controls how loud your microphone or whatever is plugged into it is. If you're using a USB mic, some of those do have a gain knob on there that you can turn down as well. If it doesn't have a gain knob on there, I'll show you how you can turn that down in a second. However, because that was the loudest part of the song, and we still have about 4 dB of headroom, like this at minus 4, and that was the loudest part of the song, I think we're going to be okay, so I'm going to leave the input gain where it is. If you're using a USB microphone or interface that doesn't have a gain knob on it, I'm going to just press VO home and jump to the top of this channel strip again.
1, input gain, slider.
This slider here that says 1, that's kind of like a gain slider or a trim slider for your USB microphone. So you can just use that to turn the gain down as well. Just turn it down and then VO right back over to the meter, VO space on it to clear it, sing something again. Make sure that you're giving yourself a fair bit of headroom, And then once you do that, you can go ahead and start recording. We got input monitoring on, we got our input set. Let's go back over to the track header.
Now in. Untitled 1. Logics. Untitled 1. Tracks. Window. Track 1 audio 1. Input monitoring. Group.
The other thing you want to look at is if you can hear yourself okay with the music. Now, if you play the track and you can hear yourself okay while you're singing along, then that's fine. If not, you want to go down to
Track 2 AGF recreated _1. Group.
the track with your instrumental on it, and you can interact with that
And
track.
track 2 H0 pan plus 0.0 decibels.
And use that volume slider to turn that track down a little bit. So you
And
can
slider.
interact with that.
-1 -2.0
Turn
decibels.
it down to whatever, play, sing, etc. Make sure you got a good level. You can hit the space bar to play, sing into the microphone. Make sure you got a good level and you can hear yourself fine. All right,
Out of slider.
so let's set this back.
And slider. -1 plus 0.0 out of slider. Out of track 2 AGF recreated under track 1 audio 1. Input monitoring. Group.
Now, make sure you got the track you want to record on in focus before you press the button to start recording. Now, the key command to start recording is going to be the letter R, and it's going to count you in for 4 bars, and then it's going to start the recording. Now, if you don't want that counting, you can go to the record menu and change it, or if you want it to be a longer count in, like say 2 bars or something like that. If I press VOM,
Menu bar.
then press the letter R,
Record.
takes me over to record menu, VO down
Record.
arrow,
Count in. Submenu.
goes to the count in, and then if I VO right,
Count in. Submenu. 16 items none.
so you see you can set it to none, that's no
Check mark.
counting,
1 bar.
1 bar,
2 bars.
2 bars,
3 bar. 4 bars.
so on and so forth. So just select the one you want. We're going to leave it on 1 bar, so I'll just hit
Closing
escape.
menu.
And so it's going to count in 1 bar, which is 4 clicks, and then it will start the recording. So let's go ahead and press R and record a take, see how that goes. All right, there we go. So I just hit space to stop that recording. And then if you want to play that back, you can just go ahead and hit the space bar to start playback. And you see start and playback from the very beginning. So I can use period and comma to move closer to where the vocals start and play back from there if I want to hear what's going on with the vocals, right? So I'm just going to use the period key to move me forward.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 take.
And if I play from here, that's how you can listen back to what you've recorded. Now, if you notice in the pre-chorus there, we kind of skipped a couple lines because it's a fast-paced song. So in fast-paced songs, it's very common to record really tight lines like that in separate passes. And so I'm just going to move the playhead closer to where that is.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 bars, 1 beat, 16 bars, 1 beat, 17 bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 take.
Same deal, just use the period to move forward by bars until I got to bar 17. So I'm going to play this now. So we left those 2 lines out, right? So if you want to go ahead and record on those 2 lines now, we can add a new audio track to the project, and then we can record those missing lines. So I'm going to turn input monitoring off. Remember the key command for that is Control-I. And the reason I'm turning it off is you don't want to have it on more than 1 track at a time, because it's just going to double the level that you're going to hear in your headphones, and that's going to make you sound a lot louder, and it's going to make your background sound a lot louder. So just to avoid all those issues, we're going to turn input monitoring off on this track with Control-I. Then press Command Option A to add a new audio track to the project.
Track 2 audio free.
All right, so let's make sure we got that track selected.
Track 2 audio free. Group.
All right, now we can press Control-I to turn input monitoring on this track on. Remember, we get to play head at bar
16
17.
bar, 17 bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 tick.
Yep. So I just press comma and then period. So if I start recording, it's going to count me in for a bar, and it'll start recording at bar 17. So then we can record the 2 lines that we skipped in the pre-chorus just to fill in that space, right? So let's go ahead and press R to start recording. We recorded that part, so now if I back
16
up
bars, 1.
and play this. And there you have it. So we got that part recorded. So now let's say you want to record the second verse, for example. If you didn't do the whole song in one take, you can just move the playhead out to like where the second verse would start.
31 bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 tick.
So somewhere around
32
here.
bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 tick.
And then you can go ahead and press R to start recording. It'll count you in for a bar. If you want to record that onto its own track, remember to turn off input monitoring, add a new track, and turn input monitoring on that new track on, and then go for it, start recording the new track wherever the playhead is. And that's how you can go ahead and record all your vocals for something like that. And then, like I said, if you want,
Track 3 ATF recreated _1. Group.
you can turn this down.
And track 0 plus 0.0 input monitoring plus 0.0 and slider minus 2 point minus 8.0 minus 10.0 decibels. 1 bar, 1 beat, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bar, 9 bars, 1 beat, 1 division, 1 tick.
You see, now you can hear the vocals a little bit better, right? So that's how you can set up everything. Now, the one last thing I want to talk to you about is latency. If when you are talking to the microphone, you hear a little bit of a delay, that's throwing you off, you can change that setting. If we do Command comma to go into our settings or preferences.
Settings, dialog, settings.
And then we can press Control Home to jump to the top of this window.
Toolbar.
Remember, that's VO, FN, and left arrow if you're on a laptop. Interact with this toolbar.
11 items. General. Selected. Button.
And let's VO right.
Audio. Button.
Over to audio. Select that.
Audio selected.
Stop interacting.
Out of toolbar. Devices. Selected. Tab 1 of 7.
Make sure devices is selected. So it is. So let's just VO right.
General. Sampler. Editing. I/O file editor. MP3. Core audio. Enabled. Checked. Output device. UMC 202 HD 192K. Output device. Pop-up button.
And you see here you can select your audio interface again. We did this when we're creating a project, so we don't need to worry about this.
Input device. UMC 202 HD 192K. Input device. Pop-up button.
If you need to change your audio interface and you already have the project open, you just come in here to do that. But what we're looking for is the next thing in here.
I/O buffer size. 128. I/O buffer size. Pop-up button.
So you see this I/O buffer size is set to 128, but if you're hearing a little bit of a delay when you go to record yourself, just VO space on this.
Menu. 664. 32.
Up arrow to 32 and VO space to select that.
32. I/O buffer size. Pop-up.
And then just jump to the bottom of this window with VO end, VO FN right arrow, that is on a laptop.
Apply. Button.
And VO space on apply.
OK. Default. Button. OK. Default.
Now this is just something that's popping up because I'm on the road. I'm not using my normal audio interface. So it's just let me know the interface it's used to seeing isn't here. You probably won't see this when you hit apply. The button will just go dim.
Devices. Selected. Tab 1 of 7.
All right. So once you are done, you can press Command W to close this window and you can continue on with your recording. But once you're done recording, you want to come in here and switch this back over to 128 because you don't want to leave it on 32 when you're not recording, because once you start to add effects like delay and reverbs and EQ and compressors and stuff like that, you're going to find that it's going to start chewing up your CPU a lot faster. So you definitely don't want to leave this on 32 samples when you're not recording. So same deal, Command comma to go into settings, toolbar, select audio, make sure devices tab is selected when you come out of the toolbar, and then VO right.
Sample editing. I/5 M. Core audio. Output. UMC 202 HD 100. Input device. UMC 202. I/O buffer 32. I/O buffer size. Pop-up button.
To where that buffer size is.
Menu. 60. 128.
VO space set it to 128.
128. I/O buffer size. Apply. Button.
And then select
OK.
apply.
Default. OK. Select devices.
And there you go.
Core audio. Output device.
Command W to close your settings.
Now
And that's pretty much it. You're ready to start adding effects and everything. If you are brand new to Logic, please feel free to go over to logic.band and sign up for the mailing list. Get the Getting Started with Logic course. That will go over a lot of the basic and fundamentals that will help a lot of the stuff in this flow a little bit smoother as well. So if you are really brand new to Logic, please check out the Getting Started course. Also, when you sign up to a mailing list, it will allow me to let you know when there is new tutorials on the channel, when I update the Logic Keyboard Ninja key commands list, and stuff like that. So let's keep in touch, get that free Getting Started with Logic course. And if you want to support me, then visit logic.band/member, become a member, and that way you get some bonus tutorials and you'll help keep the channel going. You also get to attend a live in-person Q&A with me over Zoom or whatever VoIP platform of the moment is in use whenever you're watching this. So check out the members area and get that free Getting Started with Logic course by signing up to the mailing list.